I had planned to clean out my car because the next day I was planning on going out with a girl.
So you had a date lined up?
Sí.
Yes.
So you get home, do you shower?
No, me dirigí a la casa de mi tío a pedirle una aspiradora para limpiar mi carro.
No, I went to my uncle's house to ask him for a vacuum cleaner to clean my car.
Where does your uncle live?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Did you end up going to your uncle's and speaking with him?
No, él no estaba en su casa.
No, he wasn't at home.
Did you go ahead and take the vacuum?
Correcto.
Correct.
That's something that wouldn't bother him from prior dealings, is that right?
No, y de hecho le llamé para decirle que la había tomado.
No, and in fact, I called him to tell him that I had taken it.
So you get the vacuum, and then where do you go?
A mi casa.
To my house.
When you get to your house, what do you do?
Realicé que todavía el sol estaba muy caliente afuera para estar limpiando el carro y decidí entrar a darme un baño.
I realized that the sun was still very strong. It was too strong to clean my car, so I decided to go in and take a shower.
Approximately what time did you take a shower at your home?
Alrededor de 6:30.
About 6:30.
After you took a shower, what did you do?
Salí del baño.
I had left the bathroom.
What did you see?
Dos personas en mi sala.
2 people in my living room.
Those 2 people in your living room, how were they dressed?
Con suéteres y tapados de la cara.
With sweaters and their faces covered.
Describe the color of the clothing that they were wearing.
Era ropa oscura.
It was dark clothing.
Can you describe what the build of either of these people?
Uno era un poco grande y gordo, el otro era mi misma estatura y un poco musculoso.
One of them was bigger and a little bit fatter, and one of them was about my stature and a little bit stronger, burly.
Did those men have any sort of weapons?
Sí.
Yes.
Describe which man had which weapon.
El más grande miré que tenía un arma y el otro tenía una navaja.
The bigger one, I could see that he had a gun, and the smaller one, I could see that he had a knife.
Describe the gun.
Pues no sé mucho de armas, solamente puedo decir que era negra.
I don't know a lot about guns. I can just say that it was black.
What about the knife?
Era una navaja mediana, color camuflajeado.
It was a medium-sized knife, camouflaged color.
What did these men say or do?
Que no hiciera nada tonto y todo iba a estar bien.
That I shouldn't do anything stupid and everything was going to be okay.
What happened next?
Estuvimos ahí por un buen rato.
We were there for a long while.
And did anything happen while you were there?
Pues solamente estaban ahí murmurando y ahí estuvimos durante un largo rato.
Well, they were just there whispering, and then we were there for a long while.
At that point in time, were they ever violent towards you or aggressive towards you?
No.
No.
Did you comply with all of their instructions?
Sí.
Yes.
Did you argue with them?
No.
No.
Did anything else happen at the residence?
No hasta que salimos de la casa.
Not until we left the house.
Once you left the house, what happened?
Subimos al carro.
We got into the car.
And when you get into the car, which man gets in which seat?
más grande en la parte de atrás y el más pequeño a un lado mío.
The bigger one in the back seat, and the other one gets in the seat beside me.
So the smaller one is the one with the knife, is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
And then did you drive?
sí.
Yes.
When you drove, did they tell you where to go?
Solo me dijeron que manejara derecho.
They just told me to drive straight.
Did they make any comments while you were driving?
Sí, uno le dijo al otro algo sobre alguien corriendo.
Yes, one of them told the other one. One of them said to the other one something about someone running.
Now, sir, you don't speak much English, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
How were you able to tell what they were saying?
Pues no sé hablar mucho inglés, pero entiendo como lo básico.
Well, I don't know how to speak a lot of English, but I understand the basics.
And so you were able to understand that's what was said, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
Once you get to Brooklyn, what happens?
Solo entramos al pueblo por la parte, se podría decir la parte trasera del pueblo.
We just went into town. We went into town by what you could say would be the back way into town.
Is there a specific road that you came in on?
Sí.
Yes.
Do you know what that road is?
No sé el número de la carretera.
I don't know the name of the road.
Sir, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 5, and that's already in the record, so if we could publish it. Now, sir, you've seen this exhibit before, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
And there's a road that is described as 385th Avenue on the screen, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
Is that the road that you followed on your way into Brooklyn?
Correcto.
Correct.
When you followed that road, did you see anyone?
Sí.
Yes.
Who did you see?
A una persona corriendo.
A person jogging.
And sir, did you know that person at that time?
No.
No.
Ever met Mollie Tibbetts before?
No.
No.
But now do you recognize or believe that person was Mollie Tibbetts?
Así es.
That's right.
When she was running out of town?
Sí.
Yes.
And you're driving into town, is that correct?
Sí.
Yes.
What happens next?
Solo seguimos manejando
We just continued driving.
y después me piden que dé la vuelta.
And then they asked me to turn around.
When you turned around, were you in town?
Sí.
Yes.
What happened next?
Volvimos a salir por el lugar donde entramos.
We went back out through the same way we came in.
Tell me what happened next, sir.
Manejamos todo derecho, toda la misma ruta
We drove straight on the same route.
y me volvieron a pedir que regresara.
George's going to clarify.
Y me volvieron a pedir que regresara.
And then they asked me to turn back.
When you were in town, describe these men and anything that they were doing in the vehicle.
Solo cuando íbamos a entrar al pueblo, ellos trataban de agacharse un poco lo más que podían en los asientos.
Just that when we were coming into town, they tried to kneel down, crouch down as much as they could in the seats.
You don't remember the exact route that you drove in Brooklyn, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
But you've seen the surveillance camera from Logan Collins' surveillance footage, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
Do you think that likely was your vehicle?
Oh, sí.
Oh, yes.
It looks like your vehicle. Would you agree with that?
Sí.
Yes.
And you remember driving around in that area?
Pues no recuerdo que precisamente si es esa área, pero sí es mi carro.
I don't remember if it was exactly that area, but that's my car.
Now, how many times did you drive by Ms. Tibbetts?
Y ahora, ¿cuántas veces pasó usted manejando por la señora Tibbetts?
Alrededor de 3 o 4.
Around 3 or 4.
And that was at direction of these men, is that right?
De estos hombres, así es.
Correcto.
Correct.
Let's talk about the last time that you drove by Ms. Tibbetts.
La última vez que nos encontramos con ella, ella venía de regreso hacia el pueblo.
The last time that we met her, she was on her way back into town.
And specifically, sir, she was running on 385th Street, is that right?
385, así es.
Así es.
That's correct.
May I approach?
¿Me permite acercar? Sí.
Sir, I'm going to hand you this laser pointer.
Bueno, aquí apunta con el láser.
Now, sir, if you could point to the area that you met Ms. Tibbetts the last time.
No se muestra en ese mapa.
You cannot see it on the map.
All right, we're out of batteries here. Is it all right if he gets up?
Este se para así.
Sir, go ahead and get up and
Sí,
point to the
párese
general
y
area
señale
where
la
you
área
were.
general donde usted está.
Anna, did you translate it?
Interpret, did not hear any words.
Okay.
Intérprete no oyó ninguna palabra.
And Christian, I'm not trying to trick you. I know you said that it's not on the map where you met her the last time. Is that right?
Usted la vio la última vez. ¿Es esto correcto?
Correcto.
Correct.
Could you point to the direction of the area outside of the map where you saw her?
Fuera del mapa, ¿no se la vio ahí?
Now, sir, I'm going to bring up another exhibit.
Hay otra que es.
Now, sir, is the place where this woman was running shown on this map?
¿Se muestra en este mapa?
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
point to the area on the exhibit where this woman was?
¿Dónde esta mujer estaba?
Alrededor de...
Around,
And you can go ahead and sit down, sir.
Sentarse, señor.
Now, you pointed to an area that was just before the intersection of 385th Avenue and 200th Street, is that right?
La calle 200, ¿es esto correcto?
Sí.
yes.
So when you're driving on that road,
Manejando en esta
are you
carretera,
driving towards
¿usted
town or
está
away from town?
manejando hacia la ciudad o saliendo de la ciudad?
Saliendo.
Live in town.
When you see Ms.
Cuando
Tibbetts,
usted ve a la señorita Tibbetts,
is she driving, or is she running towards town or away from town?
¿hacia la ciudad o alejándose de la ciudad?
Hacia el pueblo.
Towards the town.
So you meet her head-on with your vehicle, is that right?
Frente a frente con su vehículo, ¿es esto correcto?
Correcto.
Correct.
Does she make any statements or anything like that?
¿O algo por de esa clase?
No.
No.
She doesn't wave or anything like that?
No saluda ni nada así.
No.
No.
What happens
¿Qué es
next?
lo siguiente que pasa?
Nos seguimos de largo y donde se forma la cruz, me piden que dé la vuelta otra vez.
Well, we continue forward, and where you come to the intersection, the cross, then they ask me to turn back.
So the intersection of 385th and 200th Street, is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
Did you do that?
sí.
Yes.
Once you did that, did you drive back towards town on 385th Avenue?
Sí.
Yes.
What happened next?
Manejamos un poco y unos metros adelante me piden que que me pare.
We drove for a little bit, and then some meters forward, they asked me to stop.
Were you able to see the woman at that time?
No.
No.
Describe the terrain.
Era una carretera derecha, pero había como ciertas colinas.
Well, it was like a straight road, but there were like some hills to it.
Ms. Frese, let me stop you there. We do need to take a recess at this time. Members of the jury, I want to remind you of your admonition. We'll take a 10-minute recess. Please leave your notebooks where they are, and you may leave at this time. And Mr. Bahena, you may step down at this time. attorneys of record. Sir, I want to remind you, you're still under oath. And with that, Ms. Frese, you may continue.
So, sir, you're driving back on that road, back into town, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
And at some point, before you get back into town, were you directed to stop?
Correcto.
Correct.
Who told you to stop?
La persona que estaba a un lado mío.
The person that was next to me.
So the man in the front seat, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
Also the man with the knife.
Sí.
Yes.
What happened next?
Uno de ellos se bajó del carro.
One of them got out of the car.
Which one?
El de la parte de enfrente.
The one that was on the front.
So the guy with the knife.
Correcto.
Correct.
What did he do?
Él solo empezó a ir hacia enfrente, hacia la dirección del pueblo.
Well, he just started going towards forward, towards the town direction.
How long was he gone?
Alrededor de 10, 12 minutos.
Around 10 to 12 minutes.
The guy in the back, was he doing anything?
No, solamente estaba callado en la parte de atrás.
No, he was only quiet in the back part.
Did he seem nervous?
Cuando empezó a pasar el tiempo, él empezó a ponerse nervioso, a murmurar en la parte de atrás.
Well, when the time started going by, he started kind of whispering in the back.
Did you hear him say anything?
Pues se escuchaban muchas cosas, pero lo único que se pudo escuchar fue que él dijo, "Come on, Jack."
You could hear a lot of things, but I guess what I heard him saying is, "Come on, Jack."
Now, sir, you've heard Mr. Frese and I at least insinuate that Dalton Jack could have been involved in this. You've heard the trial, correct?
Sí.
Yes.
Are you telling this jury that Dalton Jack was one of those people?
No.
No.
Do you know who either of the people were that were in that car with you?
No.
No.
What happened next?
Alrededor de los 12 minutos, la persona regresa de vuelta al carro.
Well, around like 12 minutes after, that person comes back to the car.
And when they come back to the car, do they get in?
Él se sube.
He gets in.
What happens next?
Me piden que siga manejando.
They ask me to continue driving.
Did you continue to drive into town?
Sí.
Yes.
Did you reach town?
No.
No.
Were you directed to stop at some point?
Sí.
Yes.
Can you describe for the jury approximately how far you traveled?
No más de 300 metros.
Not more than 300 meters.
What were you directed to do once you drove 300 meters?
Que me detuviera y les prestara mis llaves.
To stop and to hand them my keys.
What happened next?
Primero la persona que estaba en la parte de adelante se bajó del carro y después el que estaba en la parte de atrás.
Well, first, the person that was in front got out of the car, and then the person who was behind.
What happened next?
Escuché que abrieron la cajuela.
I've heard them opening the trunk.
What happened next?
Solamente sentí un movimiento en el carro y se volvió a cerrar la cajuela.
I just heard a movement in the car, and then that the trunk closed.
Did the men get back in the vehicle?
Sí.
Yes.
What happened next?
Me pidieron que me diera la vuelta.
They asked me to turn around.
Did you do that?
Sí,
Yes.
What did they say next?
que continuaba manejando y me indica que vaya hacia la terracería.
They asked me to continue driving and to go towards the gravel road.
Did you do that?
Sí,
Yes.
What happened next?
solo recuerdo estar manejando muy rápido.
I just remember to be driving fast.
At some point in time, did you stop?
No,
No.
So you continued to drive, is that right?
sí, por varias millas.
Yeah, for several miles.
Right. And what happened next?
Llegamos a una parte donde, a una carretera pavimentada.
We got to an area, we got to a road that was paved.
Me pidieron que la cruzara.
And they asked me to cross that.
And then you continued on gravel road?
Sí,
Yes.
Do you remember which direction you were going?
no sé la dirección, solamente sé que era todo derecho.
I don't remember the address. All I know that it was straight.
So you continue driving, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
How long did you continue driving?
Tal vez 5 o 8 minutos.
Perhaps 5 to 8 minutes.
At some point in time, did they direct you to pull in somewhere?
Llegamos al frente de una casa blanca.
We arrived like in front of a White House.
Sir, I'm going to bring up State's Exhibit 25. Sir, you've seen State's Exhibit 25, is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
And you generally agree that this was the area that Mollie Tibbetts' body was found, is that right?
sí,
Yes.
When you mention a White House, is that what you're talking about in State's Exhibit 25?
correcto.
Correct.
Now, sir, I'd ask you to get up and to point to the jury where it is that you were directed to turn if you see it. Tell me what happened next.
Ahí me pidieron que me regresara.
They asked me there to go back.
So you turned in at the house and then you drove back, is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
Now, sir, I'm now showing you State's Exhibit 28, or excuse me, 26. This is the same area from a different direction, is that right?
sí,
Yes.
When you came back, was there a point in time that you were told to turn?
sí.
Yes.
Where were you told to turn, if that's shown on State's Exhibit 26?
A la entrada que está en el maizal.
At the entrance of the cornfield.
If you could get up again and show the jury on State's Exhibit 26, I'd appreciate it. Now, sir, State's Exhibit 27, this shows the entrance of the cornfield that you just pointed to. Is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
Have you ever been to that location before?
no,
No.
Did you understand really where you were?
no.
No.
Once you pull in, what happens next?
Solo me piden que apague el carro.
They only asked me to turn the car off,
So, y empiezan a bajarse del carro.
and they start getting off the car.
So they get out, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
Did they take your keys?
Sí, tomaron mis llaves y mi teléfono.
Yes, they took my keys and my phone.
What happened next?
Antes de irse, uno de ellos me dice que no fuera a decir nada de lo que había pasado.
Before they leave, one of them tells me not to say anything about what had happened,
Que ellos conocían a Iris y conocían a mi hija.
that they knew Iris and that they knew my daughter,
Que si decía algo, ellos se iban a encargar de ellas.
that if I said something, they would take care of them.
After that, what happened?
Ellos me dijeron que solo esperara unos minutos y me fuera.
They told me just to wait a few minutes and to leave.
What happened next?
Me bajé de mi carro porque no tenía mis llaves.
I got out of the car because I didn't have my keys.
So, obviamente sabía que había algo en la cajuela.
Well, obviously, I knew there was something in the trunk.
And why did you think there was something, or why did you know there was something in the trunk?
Porque anteriormente ya había sentido cuando pusieron algo en la cajuela.
Because previously I had felt when they had placed something or put something in the trunk.
Did you look in the trunk?
Sí,
Yes,
What did you see?
un cuerpo.
a body.
Was that the body of Mollie Tibbetts?
Sí.
Yes.
At that point in time, did it look like she was alive?
Al principio miré como algún movimiento, pero después no miré ningún tipo de movimiento.
Well, at the beginning I saw like a little bit of movement, but then after there was no movement.
Did she have injuries to her body?
No miré.
I did not look.
What did you do next?
Estuve un par de minutos pensando qué hacer, pero fue cuando decidí solo bajarla del carro.
Well, I stayed there a couple of minutes thinking what to do. And then I decided to take the body out.
Why didn't you call the police, sir?
Porque estaba asustado.
Because I was scared.
Why were you scared?
Porque si hubiera llamado a la policía, esto es algo que no se miraría nada bien.
Well, if I would have called the police, it's something that it wouldn't have been seen good. It wouldn't have been right.
Did you have any reason to believe that Mollie Tibbetts' life could be saved?
No.
No.
When you picked her up from the trunk, describe her body.
Solo muy pesado.
It was very heavy.
What about any signs of life that you saw to Mollie Tibbetts?
Ninguna.
None.
How was she dressed?
Con ropa deportiva.
With sports clothing.
What did you do next, sir?
Solo como pude la bajé del carro y decidí ponerla en el maíz.
The way I could, I picked her up and then I put her in the cornfield.
Did you cover her with corn?
Sí,
Yes.
Why did you do that?
porque no quise dejarla como que estuviera muy expuesta al sol.
Because I didn't want to leave her, I didn't want her to be too exposed to the sun.
When you left her, was she clothed?
La dejé exactamente como estaba en la cajuela.
I left her exactly how she was in the trunk.
And at that time, do you recall her having any shorts on?
Sí,
Yes.
What about her sports bra? Did it cover her chest?
Todo, tenía todo puesto, solamente tenía un zapato quitado.
Everything, she had everything on. There was only one shoe that was off.
What did you do after you laid her in the corn?
Traté de ir a la casa.
I tried to go home.
Were you able to figure out how to get home?
No,
No.
How were you able to find your way home?
lo busqué en mi teléfono.
I looked at my phone.
And did you specifically use your phone to find directions?
Sí,
Yes.
Now, Mollie Tibbetts' phone, Fitbit, and her earbuds were left in your car. Is that right?
sí, estaba en la cajuela junto con mis llaves y mi teléfono.
Ah, yeah, they were in the trunk along with my phone and my keys.
What did you do with Mollie Tibbetts' phone, Fitbit, and her headphones or her earbuds?
Las dejé a la orilla de la carretera.
I left it on the side of the road.
Now, sir, you didn't tell a soul about this for over a month. Is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
And if you weren't approached, you would have taken this night with you to the grave. Isn't that right?
Lo más probable.
Most probably.
Why didn't you call the police or let investigators know what happened?
Porque sabía que si lo hacía de alguna otra forma iba a estar involucrado.
Because I knew if I did it in any way, I was going to be involved.
And specifically, were you afraid for your ex-girlfriend and your daughter?
Sustain and ask that the question be rephrased, please.
Were there any other reasons that you did not call law enforcement?
Sí,
Yes.
What were they?
porque recordaba que ellos me decían si decía algo, iban a hacerle algo a mi familia, a mi hija y a mi exnovia.
Because I remember that they said that if I would say something, they were going to do something to my family, my ex-girlfriend, my daughter.
They used her name, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
Do you know Ulysses Felix?
Sí,
Yes.
How do you know Ulysses Felix?
es primo de mi exnovia.
It is my ex-girlfriend's cousin.
So it would be Iris's cousin, is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
Has he been to your home before?
sí,
Yes.
Has he spent the night before?
sí,
Yes.
Now, you're not alleging that Ulysses was in that car, is that right?
correcto.
Correct.
But Ulysses did spend time with your, I guess, Hispanic group of people, is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
He would attend various functions, is that right?
sí,
Yes.
Did you know his parents?
sí.
Yes.
How did you know them?
Trabajábamos en el mismo lugar.
We worked at the same place.
Now, Ulysses also attended Brooklyn school, is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
And unlike you, did he seem to have a fair amount of white friends?
sí.
Yes.
All right, sir, let's go through this interview. You were interrogated for over 11 hours, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
Describe how the interview progressed through those 11 hours.
Pues al principio me empezaron a hacer preguntas normales, como de dónde era, cómo me llamaba, todo lo básico.
Well, at the beginning, they were asking me common questions like where I was from. I need to clarify.
Mis rutinas.
My routine and all that.
Do you recall them telling you that they weren't with immigration?
Sí.
Yes.
And when they told you that, did you believe them?
Por un momento.
For a period of time.
Did they continue to be more confrontational with you?
Sustained.
Tell me how the interview progressed.
Pues ellos me empezaron a acusar con cosas.
Well, they started accusing me with things.
What sorts of things did they accuse you with?
Con un par de fotos.
With a couple of pictures.
Ellos dijeron que habían encontrado cabello de la muchacha en mi cajuela
They said that they have found a woman's hair in my trunk
y que habían ubicado su teléfono junto al mío.
and that they have found her phone or pointed my phone her phone with mine.
So they suggested that they had phone activity that tied your phone and Mollie's phone together?
Sustained. Please rephrase.
Sir, please make the jury understand what you meant about the evidence that they confronted you with your phone.
Que ellos tenían información que mi teléfono y el Mollie estaban viajando juntos.
That they had information that my telephone and Mollie's telephone were traveling together.
Did they make any other suggestions that they had specialized technology with reference to your phone?
No.
No. No.
Did they ever suggest to you that what you were saying was not true?
Sí.
Yes.
How often did they suggest that?
A cada rato.
Every so often.
Did you ever believe that things would be better if you told them what they wanted to hear?
Sí.
Yes.
Was that often?
Sí.
Yes.
Did they ever use the phrase, help yourself?
Sí.
Yes.
And what did you take that to mean when they used that phrase?
Pues que si yo los ayudaba, les decía lo que ellos querían escuchar, me podían ayudar.
Well, that if I helped them, if I told them what they wanted to hear, that they would help me.
Did they confront you or did they tell you that often?
Sí.
Yes.
At some point, you said that you blacked out. Is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
Was that your idea?
No, ellos lo dijeron primero.
No. They said it first.
And specifically, was there a suggestion made that you might be crazy?
Overruled.
Algo así, dijeron que personas a veces pueden estar enfermos y olvidar cosas.
Something like that. Something like that sometimes people can be sick and they can forget things.
Now, sir, did you intend to tell these men the truth about what really happened that night?
No,
No.
Why not?
porque mi mente tenía a mi hija.
Because in my mind, I had my daughter.
So no matter what happened, you did not plan to tell them what really happened.
Sí.
Right.
As this interrogation went on, tell me about your alertness.
Pues ya estaba muy cansado y tenía mucho sueño.
Well, I was already tired and I was very sleepy.
Now, you saw some videotape of you falling asleep during this interrogation, is that right?
Yes.
Were those the only times that you fell asleep during the interrogation?
Durante la interrogación.
No estoy seguro, pero fueron muchas veces.
I'm not sure, but there were many times.
At some point in time, the investigators asked you to try to take them to Mollie Tibbetts, is that right?
Para a Mollie Tibbetts. Así es.
Sí,
Yes.
And you agreed, is that right?
sí.
Así es.
Yes.
Why did you agree to do that at that point in time?
Principalmente, primero porque ya estaba muy cansado y ya quería que parara.
Well, for one, because I was already very tired and I wanted it to stop.
Y lo más importante fue porque me dijeron que me pusiera en la posición de la familia de la muchacha y que imaginara que ella, que si hubiera sido mi hija, que hubiera hecho yo.
And most importantly, because they told me to put myself in the family's position and to think of her that if she was my daughter, what would I have done?
So you drive out, well, you don't drive, but you ride out to the body, is that right?
Acompaña al cuerpo. Así es.
Sí,
Yes.
Were you able to provide assistance in finding Mollie Tibbetts?
sí.
Yes.
Did they seem to have some idea already where she was?
¿Dónde estaba ella?
No podría estar seguro de eso.
I can't be sure about that.
Describe the car ride out there.
El rifle en el carro para allá.
Pues yo les pedí que fuéramos a la carretera que está rumbo a mi trailer
Well, I asked them to go to the highway that's on the way to my trailer
para tener algún punto para ubicarme.
to have a point of, well, to get oriented.
Did they do that?
Ellos lo hicieron.
Sí.
Yes.
And tell me about the trip then to the body.
Entonces, hacia el cuerpo.
Solo les dije que manejaran derecho y no pararan.
So I told them to drive straight and not to stop.
What happened next?
¿Qué pasó después?
No paramos hasta llegar hasta la Casa Blanca que se mira en la fotografía.
We didn't stop until we got to that White House that you can see in the photo.
When you got to the White House, what did you do?
¿Qué hizo usted?
Pues ahí realicé que ese era más o menos el lugar, pero que ya nos habíamos pasado un poco.
Well, that's when I realized that that was more or less the place, but that we had gone past it a little bit.
So, did you direct them to turn around?
Dirigió que dieran la vuelta.
Correcto.
Correct.
Were you able to assist them in finding the body?
Encontrar el cuerpo.
Sí.
Yes.
Sir, how tall are you?
¿Cuánto mide usted de altura?
5'7".
5'7".
How much do you weigh today or now?
O ahorita.
La última vez que me pesaron en la cárcel fue 148 libras.
The last time that I was weighed in the jail was 148 pounds.
How much did you weigh when you were arrested for the death of Mollie Tibbetts?
125 libras.
125 pounds.
No further
No
questions.
tengo más preguntas.
Mr. Brown, you may cross-examine.
Thank you.
Mr. Bahena, you led officers to Mollie Tibbetts' body, is that correct?
Los oficiales al cuerpo de Mollie Tibbetts. Así es.
Sí.
Yes.
You remember your interview with
¿Recuerda que
Officer Pamela Romero?
oficial Pamela Romero?
Sí.
Yes.
You recall it even here today, is that true?
Le hizo entrevista aún hoy. Así es.
La mayoría de las cosas.
Most of the things.
Okay, you were not too tired to remember what you and she talked about at the sheriff's office, is that right?
En la oficina de policía. Así es.
¿Podría repetir la pregunta?
What? Could you repeat the question?
You were not too tired
No tenían demasiado sueño
to remember what you and Pamela Romero talked about at the sheriff's office.
dijeron en la oficina de policía.
Si no estoy cansado ahora o en ese tiempo.
If I'm not too tired now or at that time?
At that time.
En ese entonces.
Pues recuerdo, algunas veces estaba cansado, pero si una persona te está hablando, obviamente vas a estar alerta.
Well, there were some times that I was tired, but obviously if someone's talking to you, you're going to be alert.
Right. And you have no issue, you were able to understand her questions, correct?
Las preguntas de ella, así es.
Sí,
Yes.
There was no language barrier between the two of you?
Barrera de idiomas entre ustedes dos.
no que haya enterado.
No, none that I knew of.
Would you agree that you left the sheriff's office with Officer Romero and other officers at around 4:30 a.m. on July 28th, 2018?
Usted está de acuerdo que usted se fue.
I'm sorry,
pero-
July 18th of 2018. I'm sorry. Let me, let me rephrase the question, if I may.
La pregunta de nuevo, si puedo.
I misspoke the date.
Yo dije la fecha mal.
Did you leave with officers at 4:30 a.m. on August 21st of 2018
Agosto de 2018.
Sí,
Yes.
from the sheriff's office?
De la oficina de policía.
sí,
Yes.
And it was your request to go to your residence in or near Brooklyn, correct?
O cerca de Brooklyn, así es.
sí,
Yes.
And whenever you got to your residence near Brooklyn, you were able to take them to the location where Mollie Tibbetts was found. Is that correct?
Donde encontraron a Mollie Tibbetts,
Sí.
así es.
Yes.
Did you remain in the car while officers searched for Mollie Tibbetts at the location you took them to?
En el lugar a donde usted los llevó.
sí,
Yes.
At one point, the officers came to the car to get you out, correct?
Al carro para bajarlo, ¿correcto?
correcto.
Correct.
And you went back into the cornfield with the officers, is that right?
Así es.
A la orilla del maíz.
To the edge of the corn.
But there is a area where you could walk where corn wasn't growing,
Entrar donde no estaba creciendo maíz.
Correcto.
Correct.
and you took them to the edge of the corn.
Al margen, al borde del maíz.
Sí,
Yes.
That was some distance off the road, is that correct?
Distancia de la carretera, del aterrizar, así es.
sí,
Yes.
And you couldn't see that location from the edge of the road where you walked to, correct?
Del camino, al lugar donde usted caminó, así es.
así es.
That's correct.
And whenever you were standing at the edge of the corn, you pointed in the direction where Mollie Tibbetts was located, is that correct?
Donde encontraron a Mollie Tibbetts, así es.
Les dije aproximadamente en qué dirección podría estar.
I told them more or less in what direction she would be.
After you pointed in that direction, officers found Mollie Tibbetts, correct?
Encontraron a Mollie Tibbetts, así es.
Unos minutos después.
Some minutes afterwards.
Were you still present at the edge of the corn when they found her?
Al margen, al borde del maíz, cuando ellos la encontraron.
No,
No.
Were you taken back to the car?
Llevaron de nuevo al carro.
sí,
Yes.
You agree, Mr. Bahena, that you led officers to Mollie Tibbetts on August 21st of 2018?
Agosto de 2018.
correcto.
Correct.
You own a black Chevy Malibu, is that right?
Blue negro, correcto.
Sí,
It has a chromed
Yes.
mirror. I'm sorry. My bad. It has a chromed mirror.
Y tiene un espejo lateral en cromo.
sí,
Yes.
Is that a feature that you placed on the car yourself?
Es algo que usted agregó al carro usted mismo.
no,
No.
Was that feature on the vehicle when you purchased it?
Esa cosa ya estaba en el carro cuando usted lo compró.
sí,
Yes.
Your car also had chromed handles.
Tenía manijas en cromo.
sí,
Yes.
It also had spoked wheels.
Tenía monturas en rayas de cromo.
sí,
Yes.
You've been seated here in the courtroom for the entirety of the trial, is that right?
Durante todo el juicio, así es.
sí,
Yes.
You saw the videos that were played last week that show a car, correct?
Demuestra un carro, así
Sí.
es.
Yes.
You agree that that's your vehicle.
Ese es su vehículo.
100%.
100%.
You also agree that Mollie Tibbetts was jogging in the area when your car is seen. Is that right?
Cuando se ve a su carro, así es.
No podría decir si estaba en esa área, pero lo único que puedo decir es que ese era mi carro.
I can't say if she was in the area. The only thing I can say is that was my car.
You told Officer Romero that you confronted Mollie Tibbetts on 385th. Is that correct?
En la carretera 385, así es.
Sí,
Yes.
You never mentioned two other men. Is that
Usted
true?
nunca mencionó dos otros hombres, así es.
correcto.
Correct.
You told
Usted
Officer Romero that you were angry at Mollie Tibbetts. Is that true?
¿Es verdad eso?
Creo que sí.
I think so.
You agree that
¿Está de acuerdo que
you saw Mollie Tibbetts on 385th, correct?
385, correcto?
Sí,
Yes. On July 18th of 2018, correct?
2018,
sí,
correcto?
Yes.
You also indicated to Officer Romero that
Oficial Romero.
Mollie Tibbetts became angry with you. Is that correct?
Usted, ¿es correcto eso?
correcto.
Correct.
That Mollie Tibbetts threatened to call the police. Is that
Llamar a la
correct?
policía, ¿es correcto eso?
Correcto.
Correct.
You never mentioned
Nunca mencionó
two other men
dos otros
to
hombres
Officer Romero. Is that
al
correct?
Romero, ¿es correcto eso?
Sí,
Yes.
All right.
Muy bien.
You claim that you went to a cornfield
Usted se fue a un maizal.
where Mollie Tibbetts' body was placed with two other men.
Colocaron a Mollie Tibbetts, el cuerpo de Mollie Tibbetts, con dos otros hombres.
sí,
Yes.
These men had their
Estos
faces
hombres
covered.
tenían las caras tapadas.
sí.
Yes.
They were wearing sweaters, you
Vestidos
said?
con suéter, usted dijo.
Parecido a un suéter.
It was similar to a sweater.
So long sleeves
De mangas largas
Sí,
Yes.
and long pants.
y pantalones largas.
sí.
Yes.
And what was covering their face exactly?
Estaban tapando las caras exactamente.
Tipo de gorro.
A type of hat.
Like a stocking cap?
Como un gorro de invierno.
Algo así.
Something like that.
So whenever you get to the cornfield, you're in your vehicle.
Usted está en su vehículo.
Sí,
Yes.
There's no other vehicle there.
No hay ningún otro vehículo ahí.
no que yo haya visto.
Not that I saw.
Whenever you left the cornfield, you left alone.
Del maizal. ¿Usted se fue solo?
Sí,
Yes.
The other two men that were there, did they just
Ellos
walk back?
simplemente caminaron para atrás.
ellos corrieron hacia la carretera.
They ran towards the road.
So they ran towards the road and just disappeared?
Corrieron hacia la carretera y simplemente desaparecieron.
Yo no los volví a ver, no sé dónde
I
fueron.
I didn't see them again. I don't know where they went.
So you drove
Usted
these
manejó-
two men
usted
out
llevó
to the
estos
cornfield,
hombres al
correct?
maizal, ¿correcto?
¿Cómo? No entiendo.
How's that? I didn't understand.
You drove the two men in your Malibu to the cornfield where you dumped Mollie Tibbetts, correct?
A Mollie Tibbetts, así
Sí,
es.
Yes.
And you're telling us that you drove back to your home alone,
Solo.
sí,
Yes.
and you happened to find your cell phone and the keys in the trunk of the car,
Su teléfono y las llaves en la cajuela de su carro.
sí,
Yes.
and these two men
Estos dos
just
hombres
disappeared.
simplemente desaparecieron.
así es.
That's right.
Whenever you put Mollie Tibbetts into the corn, you concealed her body. Is that correct?
Usted ocultó, escondió el cuerpo de ella, así es.
Se podría decir.
You could say that.
You placed corn stalks over her body. Is that right?
Puso cañas de maíz por encima del cuerpo de ella, así es.
Sí,
Yes.
And that covered her
Y
body
eso
so
tapó
other
su cuerpo
people
para que otras personas
could not find her,
no
correct?
podían encontrarla,
pues
así es.
no estaba completamente cubierto.
She was not completely covered.
You knew Mollie Tibbetts' location for nearly 5
Usted sabía
weeks,
el lugar
correct?
donde estaba el cuerpo de Mollie Tibbetts por casi 5 semanas, ¿correcto?
Sí,
Yes.
Before you told
Antes
anyone
de
in law
usted le
enforcement,
contó
is that
a una
right?
persona que trabaja para un policía, ¿así es?
sí.
Yes.
The 2 men that you
Los dos
say
hombres que usted dice que
you were with, you don't know who they are,
usted no sabe quiénes son.
Así es.
That's correct.
but you just happen to remember that one of them used the name
Recuerda que
Jack.
uno de ellos usó el nombre de Jack.
Sí.
Yes.
Mr. Bahena,
Señor Bahena,
you don't have a problem
usted no tiene ningún
with
problema
blacking out, apparently. Is that true?
Supuestamente, ¿es verdad eso?
Correcto.
Correct.
You remember the details as you've described them here,
Como usted los describió hoy, aquí.
Sí.
Yes.
yet you told the officers,
Sí, usted
specifically Officer Romero, that you blacked out some details with regard to what happened to Mollie Tibbetts, correct?
sobre lo que le pasó a Mollie Tibbetts, ¿correcto?
Correcto.
Correct.
The 2 men that you say that came to your residence,
A su casa.
did they just walk in?
¿Ellos simplemente entraron caminando?
No sabría decirle porque al momento cuando yo estaba bañándome.
I wouldn't know what to tell you because at that moment I was taking a shower.
So your claim is that you were taking a shower. When you get done with the shower, these 2 men are standing in your residence,
Están parados en su casa.
Sí.
Yes.
and they are
Y ellos
covered
están tapados.
head to toe so you cannot identify them.
Así usted no los puede identificar.
Así es.
That's correct.
Do you have any idea how they got into your trailer?
Ellos entraron a su trailer.
Por la puerta.
Through the door.
The door was not locked?
La puerta no estaba cerrada con llave.
No.
No.
You live in rural Powesheik County at the time, is that correct?
En un área rural del condado de Powesheik en ese entonces, así es.
Sí.
Yes.
Near Yerrabee Farms?
Cerca de Yerby Farms.
Sí.
Yes.
Did you see any vehicle as to how these 2 men would have been transported to your
¿Cómo se podría
residence?
trasladar esos hombres a su domicilio?
No que yo haya visto.
Not that I saw.
So no car,
Entonces,
to your
no,
knowledge.
hasta que sepa usted.
No miré ningún carro fuera de mi trailer.
I did not see any car outside of my trailer.
Why would the 2 men
Los dos
in your trailer
en su trailer
need your
necesitarían
help?
a su ayuda.
Objection,
Protesto,
calls for
cierto. Eso requiere
speculation.
especulación.
Sustained.
Did you have any connection to the 2 men that walked into your trailer that you know of?
No.
A los dos hombres que entraron.
No.
Whenever you're at the Powesheik County Sheriff's Office being interviewed by Pamela Romero, you're around police officers, correct?
Sí.
Yes.
You're in a safe environment, would that be true?
¿Eso sería verdad eso?
¿Usted podría decir eso?
You could say that.
Okay, the 2 men that
Los hombres
you claim
¿quiénes usted había
abducted Mollie Tibbetts were nowhere near the sheriff's office, to your knowledge?
de la oficina del policía hasta que
No que yo sepa.
Not that I know of.
Okay, and you not only talked to Pamela Romero, you talked to other officers while you were at the sheriff's office, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
You were in a safe place, correct?
Podría decir.
You could say that.
And you failed to mention anything concerning these two men and their involvement with Mollie Tibbetts.
Bueno, como usted dice, yo estaba en un lugar seguro, pero no sabía dónde estaba mi hija.
Well, like you said, I was in a safe place, but I didn't know where my daughter was.
Well, why not you could just tell the officers what happened, correct? You could have done that.
Pude haberlo hecho.
I could have done that.
Okay, and you chose not to, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
You could have told the officers that you were worried for your daughter, correct?
Sí se los dije al principio.
Yes, I did tell them that at the beginning.
Right. But worried for your daughter that somebody else might harm them if you told them what you told us here today.
Yo les dije que antes de decirles nada, cualquier información necesitaba saber que mi hija y su mamá estaban seguras.
I told them that before giving them any information, I needed to know that my daughter and her mother were safe.
And you were assured that they were safe?
No me dijeron nada.
They didn't tell me anything.
Okay. Did you press them on that at all?
No.
No.
You could have had the assistance of law enforcement in protecting the mother of your daughter and your daughter, correct?
Tal vez.
Maybe.
But you chose not to press that, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
Mr. Bahena, did you ever have any connection to Dalton Jack?
Ninguna.
None.
You didn't know him or his brother Blake, is that correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
And you did not know Mollie Tibbetts?
No.
No.
Do you remember being interviewed by Officer or Deputy Steve Kivy?
Sí.
Yes.
That occurred in Malcolm on August 16th of 2018.
Sí.
Yes.
He talked to you about the disappearance of Mollie Tibbetts, is that right?
Solo me preguntó, pues algo así.
He just asked me or something like that.
So Mollie Tibbetts, that subject matter came up, correct?
Sí.
Yes.
And at that time, you knew where Mollie Tibbetts was located, correct?
Sí.
Yes.
You knew what had happened to her, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
You knew that she had been abducted, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
You knew that she had been stabbed to death, is that right?
En ese momento no sabía cómo había muerto, solo sabía que había muerto.
At that time, I didn't know how she had died. I just knew that she was dead.
Whenever you put her in the corn, she was bleeding, correct?
No, ya no había sangre en ella.
There was no longer any blood on her.
Well, you knew she was dead when you put her in the corn, isn't that right?
Sí.
Yes.
You did not tell Steve Kivy any of those facts, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
You did not ask him for any protection for your daughter or your daughter's mother, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
You denied having any knowledge of where Mollie Tibbetts was located or what happened to her, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
Judge, may we approach, please?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Bahena. Whenever you confronted Mollie Tibbetts on 385th, you recall that, is that right?
No, yo nunca lo hice.
No, I never did that.
Okay, you were on the road on 385th whenever she was running, correct?
Sí, pero nunca la confronté.
Yes, but I never confronted her.
Okay, you told the officers that you confronted her, correct?
Sí,
Yes,
You told the officers that she was angry with you, correct?
algo así.
something like that.
And you told the officers, told Officer Romero that she slapped you, correct?
No recuerdo eso.
I don't remember that.
Okay, that you're angry at her, correct?
Usted podría decir eso.
Well, you could say that.
Well, you said it, isn't that right?
No lo recuerdo, por eso no puedo decirle.
I don't remember, and that's what I cannot answer.
Okay. You told Officer Romero that you were angry, isn't that right?
Objection asked and answered.
He's not answered it.
Overruled. The witness can answer.
Pues si está en el video, sí lo dije.
Well, if it's in the video, I said it.
You told the Officer Romero, that you were angry, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
After that, you told Officer Romero that you were driving in your black Chevy Malibu alone.
Sí,
Yes,
And you remember having earbuds on your lap, isn't that right?
correcto.
correct?
And you remember Mollie Tibbetts being in the trunk, correct?
Correcto.
Correct?
Failed to mention anyone else in the car, correct?
Correcto.
Correct?
The next thing that you remember, you were at a cornfield on the edge of the cornfield. Do you remember that?
Sí,
Yes,
And you alone, Mr. Bahena, took Mollie Tibbetts into the corn.
sí,
yes,
And you alone placed corn stalks on her body.
sí,
yes,
Mr. Bahena, you stabbed Mollie Tibbetts, isn't that right?
Objection, Your Honor. I think Mr. Brown is not clear as to whether he asked about the interview and then he asked about what Mr. Bahena Rivera did. If it needs to be clear.
I'll sustain the objection and ask you to rephrase and be more specific, if you would, Mr. Brown.
I can do that. Mr. Bahena, we're not talking about the interview. I'm talking about what you did. Okay? Are we clear?
okay,
sí,
yes,
You stabbed Mollie Tibbetts. Isn't that right?
no,
no,
You're the one that did that. Isn't that true?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
You alone took Mollie Tibbetts into the corn. Isn't that right?
sí,
yes,
The two men that you mentioned didn't help you do that. Is that right?
correcto.
correct,
You took Mollie Tibbetts into the corn and placed corn stalks on her body, correct?
Objection asked and answered and compound.
only interpret one person at a time. An interpreter did not hear the question.
Mr. Brown, for the benefit of the interpreter, I'm going to ask you rephrase the question, and before the witness answers, I'll give the defense an opportunity to lodge their objection.
I can do that. You took Mollie Tibbetts into the corn alone, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
You placed corn stalks on her body, isn't that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
And you left her there for nearly 5 weeks, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
Correcto.
Correct.
You never mentioned, Mr. Bahena, that the 2 men that you claim were with you, that you ever saw them again. Did you?
No.
No.
Did they ever contact you again?
No.
No.
These men who you claim killed Mollie Tibbetts never contacted you one more time.
No.
No.
And to your knowledge, these 2 men that you claim did the things that you've described, you have no idea how they had any connection to you.
No.
No.
To your knowledge, Mr. Bahena, has anyone threatened anyone since you took?
Objection vague.
Can I finish the question, please?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Bahena, has anyone threatened you since you took Mollie Tibbetts' body into the corn?
No.
No.
You've had no other contact with these 2 men that you claim did what you described.
Correcto.
Correct.
Do you remember being asked in the interview by Ms. Romero if you were covering for anyone?
Sí.
Yes.
And you told her that you were not. Is that correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
So you were given an opportunity in the presence of law enforcement to tell what you've told us here today, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
And you chose not to do that.
En ese momento estaba muy asustado.
At that moment, I was really scared.
I understand that you may have been scared, but you chose not to tell them, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
Do you remember your interview with Ms. Romero out at the cornfield?
No mucho. No.
Not a lot.
Okay. At one point, you told her that you, whenever she was, well, let me strike that. At one point during the interview with her, she presses you for more details. Do you recall that?
Objection. At this point, counsel is testifying.
Sustained.
Do you remember being at the cornfield at the side of the cornfield with Officer Romero.
Sí,
Yes.
And she was talking to you, correct?
sí,
Yes.
And she was asking you questions, correct?
correcto.
Correct.
And you were providing her answers, is that right?
Sí,
Yes.
At one point towards the end of that interview, did she ask you for more details?
sí,
Yes.
And your response was, I brought you here, correct?
no recuerdo, pero si está en la entrevista es que es verdad.
I don't remember, but if it is in the interview, it is true.
You also told her, I did it, didn't I? Do you recall that?
La verdad no.
The truth, no.
You don't remember asking her that question?
No,
No.
You told her that you could not provide any more details, is that right?
si está en la entrevista es verdad.
If it's in the interview, it is true.
I want you to go off what you remember, Mr. Bahena. Okay, can you do that for me?
Bueno, pues Detective Romero dice que la entrevista en el carro duró aproximadamente 1 hora. Yo solamente recuerdo que ella me preguntó, solo dime cuál fue la razón por la cual lo hiciste. Y es todo lo que recuerdo.
Officer Romero says that the interview in the car lasted like for an hour. But all I remember that she asked me was, an interpreter clarified. Interpreter did not hear. What was the reason why you did it?
And you told her that you couldn't remember, correct? I'm sorry.
Approach, please. Members of the jury will be in recess at this time for lunch. Let's be back here ready to go at 1:15. Before I send you on your way, I want to remind you of your admonition. Please make sure you're not discussing the case with anyone. Make sure that you're not doing any type of independent research or having any type of media exposure to the case. Leave your notebooks where they are. They'll be collected and held by the court attendant over our lunch recess. And at this time, you may exit the courtroom. And Mr. Bahena, you may step down. attorneys of record. Mr. Bahena, I want to remind you you're still under oath. And with that, Mr. Brown, you may continue with your cross-examination of this witness.
Thank you. Mr. Bahena, I want to take you back to the cornfield where Mollie Tibbetts was putting the corn, okay? You, just to make, I know we've had a lunch break here, but you claim that there were two other men with you at the cornfield. Is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
And while these men were there, they remained covered, as you've mentioned. Is that correct?
Sí.
Yes.
So they still had these stocking hats over their faces. Is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
Still had a long sleeve sweater or that they were wearing. Is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
And long pants, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
These two men that you claim were with you at the cornfield, they did not strike you or punch you. Is that right?
No.
No, they did not.
They did not cut you with a knife.
No.
No.
They did not shoot you with a gun, correct?
No.
No.
They did not even threaten you with a gun. Is that correct?
Algunas veces solamente como apuntaban, pero nunca algo muy serio.
Sometimes they will point it, but nothing really serious.
You cannot tell us who these men are, correct?
No.
No.
They left you with your phone. Is that correct?
En la cajuela estaba el teléfono.
The phone was in the trunk.
I understand that, but did they take your phone away at some point?
Todo el tiempo no lo tenía yo.
The entire time, I did not have it.
But that's my point, is they left your phone with you in your trunk, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
Which you then had access to, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
Which means you could have called or texted people, correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
Other than these two men that you claim were at the cornfield with you, you were the only other person at the cornfield, correct?
Sí.
Yes.
The time that they came to your trailer, did you put that between 6 and 6:30?
No podría decirle exactamente la hora,
I could not tell you with exactitude what the time was.
pero era entre 6 y 7.
It was between 6 and 7.
What time did you get off work on July 18th of 2018?
Alrededor de las 5:30.
Around 5:30.
And you would have gone directly home?
Sí.
Yes.
And then you took a shower whenever you got home?
No, fui a Brooklyn.
No, I went to Brooklyn.
Okay. At some point you took a shower, is that correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
And maybe I had the time wrong, but was that after you had gone to Brooklyn?
Sí.
Yes.
And it was after you came out of your shower that these two men were, you claim these two men were present in your trailer?
Correcto.
Correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Frese, any redirect?
Yes, just briefly. Sir, you've listened to Officer Romero describe the interview that took place, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
Would you agree with Officer Romero that there are different ways in different parts of Mexico that things are translated?
Sí.
Yes.
So people use different terms depending on what area they are from.
Yes.
There are parts of Officer Romero's testimony that you don't agree with. Is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
Bottom line, you agree that you lied to investigators that night.
Sí.
Yes.
Do you recall the part of the interview, or strike that. Do you recall Officer Romero's testimony where she said that you described Mollie Tibbetts as hot?
Sí.
Yes.
That was one portion that you specifically took issue with, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
And what did you believe was said about Ms. Tibbetts?
Objects, it's calls for speculation.
Overruled. The witness may answer if he knows.
Bueno, la palabra que yo usé fue guapa, no hot.
Well, the word that I used was good looking, not hot.
And if the interpreter could please say the Spanish term that he used.
Interpreter is not sure what the attorney is asking the interpreter to do.
Why don't I do this? The Spanish term that was used was guapa. Is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
Ms. Frese, you better spell that to the. Oh,
Guapa. And sir, what do you take guapa to mean?
Bonita.
Pretty.
We went through the interview after Officer Romero's testimony, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
And the term that you used was guapa, is that right?
Judge, I want to object. He's commenting on the testimony of another witness who testified in English.
overruled.
Correcto.
Correct.
Now, sir, at a certain point, did the interrogation become confrontational?
Sí.
Yes.
I'm going to direct your attention to Defendant's Exhibit KK. For identification purposes, could you describe what's portrayed in the picture?
Yo sentado en una esquina y la detective Romero y otros dos tipos.
Well, me sitting in the corner, and then Officer Romero, and then two other guys.
These two other guys, were they present during a portion of the interview?
En algunas.
In some.
At this part of the interview, did they both come in and interrogate you?
Sí.
Yes.
Did Officer Romero also interrogate you?
Sí.
Yes.
I'd offer Defendant's Exhibit KK.
I would just object to relevance.
Overruled, and defendant's exhibit KK is admitted.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
Now, Mr. Bahena Rivera, we specifically watched this portion earlier this week, is that right?
Correcto.
Correct.
And you were able to rewatch the interrogation process that was used?
Sí.
Yes.
Some of the interrogation is in English, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
Is some of it in Spanish?
Sí.
Yes.
Describe for the jury what you recall being said to you during that interview.
Pues el hombre que está sentado en la silla tomó mi mano y me estaba diciendo que estaba mintiendo y que estaba mintiendo.
Well, the man that is sitting on the chair took my hand and he told me that I was lying. I was lying.
Then there's a man that's standing up behind him. Do you remember him ever talking?
Sí.
Yes.
What do you remember him saying?
Sustained.
Your Honor, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted.
State's response.
I'm not sure what other reason it would be offered for other than
What is the other
truth.
reason?
For the effect on the listener, Judge, and further, the interrogation, the defendant's admissions have been a key part of the state's case, and for the defendant not to be allowed to present the reason that he made those admissions and his state of mind is simply unfair.
And this picture's not needed for that.
Take the picture down, and the objection's overruled. Go ahead and proceed.
What did the man say to you that was standing up?
Fue una palabra en inglés, pero no sé, no recuerdo, no sé cómo decirla.
A word in English, but I don't remember. I don't know how to say it.
Describe his tone of voice.
Me estaba gritando.
He was yelling.
No further questions.
Mr. Brown, anything else of this witness?
Yeah, Mr. Bahena, I have a question. You agree you're the only one who could take the police to the body of Mollie Tibbetts?
Sí.
Yes.
That's all.
We done with this witness? Yes. Okay. Mr. Bahena, you can go ahead and be reseated back over here if you would, please. Defense may call their next witness.
Jamie Slife.
Slife, good afternoon. Can I get you to raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, Ms. Slife, you're gonna head over there and be seated, and I think you probably need to pull that microphone down a little bit. Okay, I think that.
Please state your full name, and if you could spell your first and your last name for the record.
Yep, it's Jamie Lee Slife, and it's Jamie, and my last name is S as in Sam, Lif as in Frank, E.
Ma'am, are you married?
Yes.
Where do you live?
I live in Urbana, Iowa. Urbana, Iowa.
And you can probably sit back a little bit. It seems that
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just.
It seems like there's a sweet spot with these mics, so
Okay.
we have all struggled with that. There's a learning curve.
Okay.
You said you live in Urbana, Iowa, is that right?
Yes.
Is that, what county is that in?
Benton County. It's just north of Cedar Rapids.
In Benton County, where is that in relation to Poweshiek County?
A couple counties over. I think it goes Benton, Tama. Poweshiek County is southwest of where I live.
It's close in relation to Poweshiek County. Would you agree with that?
I mean, within driving. I mean, it's about halfway between me and Des Moines, I think.
In any event, do you recall in July of 2018 when there were stories about Mollie Tibbetts missing?
Yes.
The Benton County being close in relation, it was nationwide news. That
Yeah, it
this
was
woman-
all over the news. Yep.
And did you pay attention to that, those news coverages?
I did.
At that point in time, did you make some tips or some phone calls into the tip line?
I did.
And what was your understanding of the tip line in reference to Mollie Tibbetts?
Well, just all over the news, they just kept saying that if you have any tips, to just call in. No tips were too big or too small, just to call.
And based on your experience, you decided to call in a tip a couple different times. Is that right?
That is correct.
Who is your father?
Ron Pexa.
And Ron Pexa, how has he historically been employed?
Historically, he has been in law enforcement. He also worked as an accident investigator for the DOT when I was a kid growing up.
You had concerns that your father lived in the Powesheik County area. Is that right?
Yes.
And based on those concerns, did you report tips to the tip line?
I did.
How many different times did you call the tip line?
I first called the tip line just a few days after she went missing. After that, it was probably a couple weeks into it. When it kind of got closer to his area, I thought I should probably call again. I'm sure they've been flooded with tips, and I just felt like I needed to call again. And then again, I ended up calling the sheriff's department there in Powesheik to leave a message just because I felt like it was the right thing to. It just kept eating at me that I needed to call.
So there were 3 different times that you called, is that right?
Yes.
Why did you call?
My dad has sexually abused.
I'm going to object to this. Can we approach?
Ms. Frese, back to you. You can go ahead and, why don't you rephrase that, or repeat your question, rephrase it, complete it. I'm not sure where we are, but you're up with a question.
Ms. Slife, I know this is difficult for you, but why did you make those calls regarding your father?
Because I know the type of man he is. He sexually abused me and my sisters. He used to threaten to kill us.
Judge, these threats, the statements have nothing to do with this case. This is completely irrelevant.
I have DHS records that document.
Hold on. Objection's overruled. Go ahead and finish your answer.
I guess I would just like to say that I'm here just to state the facts. And the facts are that I have documents of the abuse, of severe trauma that was committed by my dad, Ron Pexa. And so based on the man that I know him to be, I felt the right thing to do was to call the tip line. And when, again, just based on the media, they were then now searching in his area, I felt the need to call again because I did not know if I had been heard, if my tip had been taken serious.
Now, you said that you were a sexual abuse victim of your father, is that right?
Yes.
And I understand you don't want to bring your family into this, but you also said that your sisters were sexual abuse victims of your father, is that right?
Yes, and it was founded by DHS.
you also said that your mother was victimized somehow by Mr. Pexa. Is that right?
Yes, he was very violent. He would pull guns on us. He threw knives at my mom.
Did Mr. Pexa ever make threats to kill you or your sisters?
Yes.
What relevance does this have? This is completely irrelevant as it relates to this particular young woman.
I got about 5 more minutes I'm not planning on taking the rest of the day.
I'm going to overrule the objection, but I'm going to hold you to that promise, and let's get to where we're going.
Based on that information, did you continue to try to make your concerns known?
Yes.
And your father lives in a specific area in Poweshiek County, is that right?
Yes.
And did you pay attention to this investigation?
Yeah, when she went missing, it kind of, it was just, I think the whole country did.
Yeah, everybody paid attention.
Yep.
And
it felt like it hit a little close to home just because I was calling the tip line, but yes, I kept track of it.
At some point in time, did the search area contain an area that was close to where your father lived?
Yes.
In fact, his home was right in that area, is that right?
That is correct.
Did you make another call at that point in time?
That is when I called the sheriff's department.
Now, Ms. Slife, did you ever get any feedback or any phone calls from law enforcement?
No.
At some point in time, a body was located, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Where was that body located in reference to your father's home?
Right next to his property.
No further questions.
Mr. Brown, you may cross-examine.
Ron Pexa is your father?
Yes.
Is this the same Ron Pexa who was a basketball player?
Yes, for Washington High School in Missouri.
He played for Missouri, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He's a
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
he's a tall guy, right?
Yes, he's 6'7".
Okay. Is he actually taller than that?
No, I believe he's 6'7".
Okay. So he stands out, would you agree, by his height? He's taller than most human beings. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it's safe to say that you don't have a good relationship with Ron Pexa, correct?
No, I do not have a relationship with him.
That's all.
Anything else with this witness?
No. Thank you, Ms. Slife.
Thank you for being here. You're excused and step up. Defense may call its next witness.
Defense calls Luis Medina.
Right here, and I'll swear you in, sir. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Medina, would you make your way over there and be seated in that chair, please? Go ahead.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Luis Medina, L-U-I-S-M-E-D-I-N-A.
Where do you live, sir?
Tama.
Who do you live there with?
My family, Roma, and my kids.
At one point in time, did Cristhian Bahena Rivera live with you?
Yes.
And did he live with you upon entering this country?
When he came into this country, yeah, he lived with me.
Sir, how are you related to Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
He's the nephew of my wife.
Now, your wife is Cristhian Bahena Rivera's father's sister, is that right?
Yeah.
Where does my client's parents live?
Mexico.
Do you know where in Mexico they live?
Guerrero.
Is your wife also from that area?
Yes.
Now, sir, are you a United States citizen?
Yes.
Were you born in the United States?
No.
Do you recall when you immigrated into the United States?
Yes.
Give the jury just some brief information about when and how you got to the United States.
I was 5 years old. We migrated. I remember walking a lot, jump into a trailer. They flew us to Illinois. And then we lived with some relatives there for a while. Then we finally went to Chicago and stayed there for a while. It was hard.
Is that one of the first memories that you have in your life?
Yeah, difficult memories, yeah.
Your parents, when they were in Mexico, do you know how they were employed?
Not really. Probably just farming. You just make your own food farming.
In the United States, how were they employed?
My dad worked at a pallet shop, like repair pallets, wood in Chicago. And my mom, I think we were like a mail staffing process.
Now, because of your parents' decisions, you were able to attend school in the United States, is that right?
Yes.
Is that, did they speak any English?
No.
Is that how you learned the language?
Yes.
And sir, currently, are you gainfully employed?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I do electrical work, electrician.
And are you in a program so that you can be licensed?
Yeah, I've been trying to get my license, so I'm working on that.
And currently, you make a pretty good income, is that right, sir?
Yes.
What do you make hourly?
$37.50.
You able to support your family?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
4, 5. The oldest don't live with me no more.
And that's because he's an adult?
Yes.
Are you able to provide for your children and their activities?
Yes.
Is what you're able to do a lot more than what your parents were able to do for you?
Yes.
Now, sir, you became aware that Cristhian Bahena Rivera was coming to your location from Mexico, is that right?
Yes.
What was your understanding of how he came here?
My wife told me that he's moving over here to help his family in Mexico with financially,
And his parents in Mexico, they're poor, is that right?
Yes.
Most people, have you been down to, it's Guerrero, is that right?
Right. No.
Is it your understanding that it's a poor area of Mexico?
Right.
Was your understanding that Cristhian Bahena Rivera was coming to this country to find work, is that right?
Yes.
When he got there, did you provide a place for him to sleep?
Yes.
Did he have a room at your house?
Yes.
How long did it take for Cristhian Bahena Rivera to find work?
I would say a little less than a year.
All right, and when he started working, did you charge him any sort of rent?
No.
Was he able to send money home to his family?
Well, when he started working, yeah.
Sir, you have children at your home where Cristhian Bahena Rivera lived, is that right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen Cristhian Bahena Rivera act aggressively?
No.
You ever seen him angry?
No.
Describe his demeanor for the jury.
Well, he's quiet person. He was like if you knew him, he'll be fine. But if you didn't know him, to me, like we just kind of. I'm a quiet person myself. I'm just shake hands and that's about it. But he was kind of funny. He did joke around with people that he knew.
Did he become close with your family, your nuclear family?
Yeah.
And then also your wife has several siblings around the Tama County and Poweshiek County area. Is that right?
Say that again.
Your family. You have a lot of family in the area. Is that
right?
right?
Yeah. I mean, through Roma, through marriage, yes.
And do you spend time together often?
We do. I mean, we cook out. We just do that Saturday. Grill. I like to grill a lot, and invite people over, family especially.
Let's talk about when Cristhian Bahena Rivera was brought to the sheriff's office. Mm-hmm. How did you become aware that law enforcement was talking with him?
My wife called me and saying that Cristhian was being taken to the Poweshiek sheriff's office.
Did you decide to go there?
She told me to go and find out what's going on.
Did you go to the Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
When you got there, what did you do?
I opened the door and pushed that button.
And in the sheriff's office, there's kind of a little doorway where there'd be a set of doors and then another set of doors.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
And if the sheriff's office is closed, then you've got to push a button to get in. Is that right?
Right.
So you push that button?
Yep.
Did anybody answer?
Yes.
And what happened next, sir?
I asked about Cristhian, and they didn't know nothing about it, but they let me in. They told me to come in, and I went in, and I sat down. Wait there for 5 minutes. Then 2 gentlemen came in and asked me how I knew him.
Now, this waiting area that you were in, that you were let in after hitting the button, it's got some chairs and places for you to sit down. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the lobby.
There's a restroom. Is that right?
I didn't see that.
Okay. But you talked with these men, and they asked you questions about Cristhian Bahena Rivera. Is that right?
Yes.
After that was done, what did you do?
Well, I waited there a little bit more because they told me it's gonna be like 15 minutes. So then they came back again and asked me another question. It was different people, and they asked me questions about him, and I answer it, and then they told me okay, like 15 minutes more.
So you were told 2 different times it'll be 15 minutes. Is that right?
Right.
About what time is this at night?
That was probably around 8 o'clock, 8, 10, 15.
What happened next?
From there I went to check on my son because he was outside waiting for me, and I went out there, and then I saw my sister-in-law come in with Delfino, and then Your sister-in-law came in with? Delfino? It was Alejandra. She came in with Delfino and asked me what's going on, and so I said they haven't said nothing, but I went to check on my kid, and they went towards over there, and when I came back, she was talking to a lady.
How old's your son?
He was 14.
So you go out and check on him, and that's when who shows up?
Alejandra and
All right.
Delfino.
And once they show up, do you try to go back inside of the sheriff's office?
Yes.
So you'd have to open the first door, is that right?
Yeah.
and then you press the button to get admitted into the area. Is that right?
Right.
Were you allowed into the waiting room again?
They asked me if I could go, if I wanted to wait out there, and we just waited there by the hallway. So.
How long did you wait?
It seemed like forever. We left that night at like 1:30 in the morning.
While you're waiting, are you trying to reach Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
Were you hoping to speak with him?
No, I was just trying to find out what was going on.
Were you ever able to get any information about what they were questioning him about?
Yes, they asked me about if I knew about Mollie. And I go, yeah, that's on the news. You know, that's how I knew about it.
No further questions.
Mr. Brown, you may cross-examine.
Just to clarify a couple things. Mr. Medina, is that correct?
Yes.
How are you?
Good.
Mr. Medina, you were at the sheriff's office on August 20th of 2018, is that correct? Does that sound like the date?
So, yeah.
Okay, and what was the time frame that you were there?
I was there like around from 7:30, close no later than 7:45.
So just for 15 minutes?
Inside?
I'm sorry, I'm not being clear. So you were at the sheriff's office beginning at 7:30, is that correct?
Well, yeah.
And whether you were inside or outside the sheriff's office, what was the total time you were there?
The total from 7 to 1:30. So 7:30, 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 6 hours.
Okay, that's all right.
Huh?
And was there another woman that was there with you?
She came in later.
And who was that?
That was my sister-in-law.
Cervantes, is that her last name?
Yeah.
All right. And did you have a cell phone with you?
Yes.
Did you make any attempt to contact the defendant, Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
You were just trying to find out kind of what was going on, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Sir, thank you for being here. You're excused and can step down. Defense may call their next witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense rests. Thank you.
With that then, counsel, could I have you approach, please? Members of the jury, with the defense resting, we will be in recess until tomorrow morning at 8:30. Before I send you on the way for the day, I want to remind you of your admonition. Make sure you're not discussing the case with anyone. Make sure you're not doing any type of independent research. Make sure you're not having any media exposure to the case. Please leave your notebooks where they are. They'll be collected and held by the court attendant overnight. And again, in recess until tomorrow morning at 8:30. And
They're free to go.
okay, and you are free to go. Thank you. everyone can please be seated. We're on the record outside the presence of the jury. Jury has been sent home for the day. Defense is rested. And I'm just asking, do we have anything we need to address on the record?
Your Honor, we would renew our motion for judgment of acquittal. Oh, okay, never mind. I thought you said to renew it. No. I
Okay.
would withdraw that.
From the defense, and nothing to address on the record today, and how about from the state standpoint?
Not on the record, Judge, no.
Okay, let's go, we'll close the record for the day, at least for now. And again, I understand and appreciate this may be somewhat out of order, but is there an appetite for making record today regarding the instructions?
I would think, given I think the instructions would be fairly easy to handle. I think we should just go ahead and take care of it now, so we're ready to roll tomorrow for closings after we're done.
Is that fine with the defense in terms
Could
of?
we
I mean,
take some
well,
time to look over them?
And I hope and don't think Mr. Brown was applying right away. I was
Yeah.
certainly going to give you a break and then resume whenever you're comfortable. And what I would just say off the record before we go back on the record, I mean, clearly review them. And if there's a typographical error, if we've by mistake left something out, again, please bring that to our attention. But we feel as though they're in pretty good shape at this point. And if everyone's comfortable, would like to go ahead and make record this afternoon. But again, after you reviewed them and you're ready.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so just let us know when you're ready, and then for you folks, we will need the defendant back, but
So we just want us to leave them up here?
would you please?
Yeah.
For now,
We'll just
yeah.
sit with them up
Yeah,
here.
that'd be great, okay? Okay, thanks everyone.